Every day I thank the heavens for Rick Dhaliwal and his Twitter account because man oh man has Dolly provided the scoops this offseason, and of course, looking forward to seeing Donnie and Dolly return on the airwaves. But earlier this morning we had ourselves a Twitter video posted by Dhaliwal. It is a Canucks goalie update. It's a short video, it's only a minute 43 long, and it had a lot of Canucks fans going out there with celebratory, positive comments in the replies below. Take a look at this tweet made by Ian McIntyre that goes out there and transcribes, not really transcribes, he kind of just summarizes. He paraphrases what it is that Dhaliwal says on the video. Per Rick Dhaliwal, the report is that Thatcher Demko is back on the ice. This is good news for the Vancouver Canucks. The team is not setting any preseason deadlines, but they want Demko to keep improving, which he is. Besides Kevin Lankinen, whom Rick Dhaliwal mentions in the video the Vancouver Canucks have already sent an offer to, Antti Raanta is another goalie on the radar as a possible PTO. Now, this is a pretty big piece of news, and it's a lot better than I think many Canucks fans were expecting to hear on a random Tuesday morning at the beginning of September. Thatcher Demko, whom we were all speculating and whom we had word about, saying that he might have been in a position to miss training camp or even the preseason, he's now skating, and his timeline is looking really good. Dhaliwal said in the video that Vancouver Canucks players are getting back into the city here, that they're starting to practice and they're starting to skate, and that is obviously a good sign. But for Thatcher the Snatcher, the fact that he's in on this too, that placates a lot of worry amongst the Vancouver Canucks fan base that were kind of expecting him to be available for the third round had the Canucks made it, but no, he wasn't needed in the third round because the Canucks did not get that far. And the fact that we had word that his injury extended into the summer and into potentially the preseason, that was a lot more concerning. Because it's like, hey, what was going on with the timeline of this guy that he was supposed to be available back in the third round, but now it's September and we're still seeing that he's injured? At least now we're learning from Dhaliwal that his timeline is progressing, even though the summer timeline that he had was a lot slower than people anticipated, bleeding into potentially training camp and the preseason games. Now we're here. We're getting this extremely positive update on Demko, and that's it, man. There also was an update that Dhaliwal gave out on Artur Silovs that he should be good to go for all this stuff as well. That was kind of the word that we had heard from the Latvian team in the Olympic qualifiers. By the way, big shout out, Latvia, they made it. They won their division, and they're going to be participating in the 2026 Winter Olympic Games. Super happy for all the folks over in Latvia, and they didn't need to do it with Artur Silovs. He was just there. He was celebrating, he had the Olympic glasses on, and he was doing a pretty alright job being a supportive teammate. Now, of course, by the time the Latvia team suits up in the Olympics in 2026, Artur Silovs will most likely not be injured, and he'll probably be the main guy. I don't think he's going to be challenged too harshly by Elvis Merzlikins or anybody else that's going to exist there in the Latvia goaltending system. But still, Dhaliwal mentioned in the video that Silovs looks like he should be good to go by the time everything gets started, and that, of course, is the ideal scenario. If you had had everybody put their ideal Vancouver Canucks roster on paper, you would have had Demko and Silovs as the 1 and 2. The fact that both of them kind of got hurt at the same time, or Demko at least was hurt a while ago, but it bled into right now, and Artur Silovs was suffering from inflammation in the knee due to apparent overworking. The fact that these news releases got put out at the same time, it was kind of devastating for a few days there. But either way, all positive updates aside, talking about Demko getting recovered and talking about Silovs going down the same path, Rick Dhaliwal does mention in the video that Kevin Lankinen was a player that the Vancouver Canucks have sent an offer to. It was not enough to get him signed. We were kind of talking about this in a few other videos, but if the Canucks wanted to make some sort of a goalie acquisition, they do have Tucker Poolman's $2 million that they could put onto the LTIR, and I actually did want to make a video today going over Poolman and the sweetener price to get rid of him, because I think it was Harman Dale, he had talked about it on a podcast or a show. I think it was Canucks Conversation. Can't be too sure nowadays. There's so many shows out there, but Tucker Poolman, his contract is $2.5 million. If the Canucks sign Kevin Lankinen, for example, to a deal, then they would be able to put Poolman's LTIR money to good use. Of course, though, there is a benefit to not using LTIR space, and we did discuss this in another one of the videos too. If the Vancouver Canucks start out the 24-25 season under the salary cap, they don't need to go over it and use Poolman's LTIR money. It allows them to maybe get a better player who's worth more by the time the trade deadline rolls around, because every day that you have excess cap space, it piles up as the season goes on. And if you go day by day by day with a few $100,000, a few $100,000, a few $100,000 available to you to be spent, by the time the trade deadline comes, then hey, that few $100,000 built up over the span of a few days will have added to your cap capacity, your spending day by day amount, in a pretty significant way. So Vancouver has a plan here. Maybe a guy like Kevin Lankinen getting signed to a $2-something million deal doesn't align there, but of course, you have to be fail-safe sometimes. You're not guaranteed Demko and Shilovs to being available to you. You don't want to roll with Jiri Patera as your number one, so just getting an extra guy in there, I don't know, Kevin Lankinen, Antti Raanta, that's the name that Ian McIntyre went out there and described as well. It does make sense, but of course, Vancouver's main priority would be Demko Shilovs. It's just, you can't really guarantee anything nowadays. So once again, big shout out over to Rick Dhaliwal and the folks over on Donnie and Dolly. I'm super excited to seeing everything come back, man. Like, Canucks hockey has been so not really all too newsworthy the past few weeks here. We're just kind of talking about numbers, talking about how good guys can be. I think it's a good sign, right? Honestly, that Alvin and Rutherford did so much work in the free agency period to start things out that really the only big piece of news that we had recently with the Canucks was the Podkolzin trade. And really, when you think about that, that's not even a big piece of news. A guy got traded for a 4th round pick. That's not anything at all, to be honest. Sure, I guess there's pedigree there because Podkolzin was a 10th overall guy, and a lot of people thought that he would be able to be maybe a 25 to 30 goal scoring 50, 60, 70-point player who has some really good work ethic off the puck. Hey, don't blame me. That's just kind of what we were talking about back in 2019 when he was drafted. But that was the big piece of news that the Canucks had the past few weeks here in August, pretty much. That was the entire thing. So now we're finally slowly getting back into the swing of things, talking about Canucks hockey, talking about Canucks updates. Thank you, Rick Dhaliwal. Thank you, Ian McIntyre. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about Demko and Shilovs both potentially being available for Vancouver? This is a lot better than we thought, like 2 days ago. So hopefully this continues down a positive direction and we see, ultimately, the Canucks not have to use Jiri Patera in any sort of an NHL game. It's not that Patera's a bad option. He's pretty okay. It's just he's not Demko. He is not Artur Shilovs. He does not have that same long-term projectability like a Shilovs. He does not have the Vezina caliber status to his name like a Demko. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about the updates on these two Vancouver goalies. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.